here. I have with me Lindsay McDonald. Lindsay, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I work with Alistair, and also I work with the SIS specialist at the ECD.
Okay, so we are here together today because over this past year, with your district's data and accountability supervisors, we took a look at attendance in the SIS system across the province. And as you're aware, we have a new 10-year ed plan, and starting this September, we are going to be building baseline data for attendance at 3 levels. One of them is going to be at your school level, another one is going to be at the district level, and the province level. So while the province is going to be using the data to report out on the 10-year plan, the information that we've developed over this year, like support documents, these videos that we're going to be doing this week, are all to help you in your school have clean, reliable, valid attendance data so you can attend to student needs. So this year, you can see on the document on the screen in front of you, I have the latest data standard for attendance. Came out in July finally published, documented, and in here we've got attendance codes. The nice part is most of the attendance codes are the same, and with the exception of a couple, we're going to be using them identically as we were before. So there are some clarifications around when things should be used, and we have some new ones, so I'm just going to go through some of them. So one of the big ones this year is school programming, and they are replacing some of the codes that we had, such as co-op, guidance, where we now want to not say specifically where a child is, because it's not always appropriate that we say a student's missing in class because of guidance, because it could be a very confidential matter, or if it's an intervention, maybe they are receiving support services from social development or addiction services, and we don't want everybody in the system to know that. So when students are at co-op, another example, co-op would be when they are actually at their placement, but they're not in the classroom. So if they're in the classroom, they would be marked as present. But when they're at their co-op placement, and we know that they're there, we would call that school program, because they're accounted for, but they're not actually in their classroom with their teacher. Tardies are the same, in-school suspension is the same. We are going to be looking at using attendance not required more often. If the attendance measure that's coming out is going to be looking at the percentage of time that kids missed. And in the past, we've had a lot of schools that would not take attendance at all on some days, let's say the exam week. Well, during the examination week, that means all kids would be marked as default present, and that will skew our data. So we want to have a more accurate picture of when a child is actually in their seat and required to be in their classroom versus when they're not required. We have the school teams. We do not have the MBIA anymore. We're just going with school teams or non-school teams, sports teams. Inclement weather is still there. The naming of the excused and unexcused, we're now calling it other informed, and that would be the same as the other one, but informed is the language that we're going to be used right now, and unexplained absence still remains the same. Lindsay, you want to add anything into there at that point?
No, I just want to agree that I really like the look of that PDF. It says exactly if it counts on the report card or if it doesn't. So it's quite a nice tool for you to have by your side just to refer to.
Right, and I also included it in this link invite, so everybody has a copy of it now. If you've joined here, you can take that and print it or save it wherever you save it on your computer. So today we're going to be looking at two things in PowerSchool. One is we're going to just talk about revisiting our standard procedures that we have within the SIS, but we're also going to be looking at some new recommendations to make sure that we have more reliable data We've done some surveys around the province with AAs. We found some inconsistencies with things being done, and we'd like to just revisit those just to make sure that we still all have the same message. So the first thing I want to talk about is the school calendar. So in the school calendar, this would be an example of what a calendar would be set up correctly, making sure that now this is a high school and they only have a single day cycle. So if you're in a blended school, you may have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you may have an A, B, C, D down here. Your school may have more than one bell schedule. So for example, this school has 2 bell schedules, but they're only using just the regular bell schedule. We want to make sure that school is in session for attendance to count. And now this is the big one where I'd like to just talk about this. The membership value that we always set in our calendar is set to 1. We don't change this to 0.5 if there's a half day of school. We always set this to be 1 because this number right here is multiplied by the codes that are set for the attendance. So if a student is AM absent, for example, half-day values, then that would be 0.5 and they would be multiplied by this 1. So we don't change these values at all. In New Brunswick, we do not use the functionality of the tracks, the A to F. So our system is set up where all the tracks need to be set, and so you don't need to touch this at all. Once they're all clicked off, you don't have to turn them off, for example, if you're going to be turning a day off in the calendar because of a snowstorm. And it's good practice to also say that whether school is in session like this. However, this does not impact on anything on the report card. This is more about for the information that you have within your school. So, you know, for things like weather or professional development day. So there you can code it for what actually happened on a particular day. But this type and notes, they do not actually impact on the attendance counts or on the report card. All right, so that has to be done every month and to be revisited to make sure that it's done correctly. I'd just like to make a note that when it comes to report card time, you have to make sure that your calendar is set at least 24 hours before teachers start printing off their report cards, because the values that are in this table here on the calendar are only updated overnight with respect to what is printed on the report card. So it has to be done at least 24 hours ahead. So if you've got a keen teacher and they print before you update the calendar, they will have inaccurate information if there was a change that was done. Okay, so just let's talk about individual student attendance. So that would be the case where the parent calls in, the office is meeting with a child for a particular period, which would be like school programming. Guidance is meeting, maybe resources meeting, that would be school programming as well. Or if a student is being suspended, then what we're looking at is we're looking at the individual student changes. So you come in and you grab the student, and under the left-hand side you go to attendance, and then you click the date, the date week span that is in question, and using the drop-down code you pick the code that you need. So maybe in this example we'll talk about a parent that calls in. So you click within the box. You can set to all, which means it'll fill all of them in. Just a little note about the homeroom thing here. Some schools actually have homeroom counting as part of their attendance in their day, and other schools do not. So you may not see it exactly like this in your school. Just a reminder too that when you set it, you click on the bubble. Make sure you put in whatever the details may be and putting your initials after it. I recommend you copy it, Control-C, before you close it, because it does not paste to each one, so you'll have to open up each one and go one at a time. I know it's a little bit of a pain, but that is the way that it works. And then you'll be able to fill it all the way down, and then those notes will go to the teacher in their classroom, so they'll see why they're there. Okay, so the other thing that happens a lot in high schools is when you have teams or clubs that are traveling somewhere, or you may have an entire class that's going out of the building for a particular period. It is possible to change mass students' attendance all at once. So in this example, I've done what's called a stored selection. Um, So if you would like to use this feature, then I recommend you reach out to your SIS specialist because they can walk you through the steps. It's very slick. It works really well. So I have two of them here. I have a club and I have a grade 10 example. So once you come into your stored selection, you click on Go Functions, and this takes you to your group functions, which is the same thing as the bottom corner down over here once you've selected those students. So we look at the attendance change. You select the date that is in question. It always defaults to the day that you're actually doing it, so that's probably what you're going to come up with. And let's say this club is going to be leaving after lunch, so I would click these two periods right here. And this portion right here is really important. We want to scan for the present values only. We don't want to go for all, because if you go for all, then you may erase the illness, you may erase things like a suspension, you may erase things like a medical appointment. So we just want to change the present values that are in there right now, and we're going to set that because this is a club that's going out. They are going to be going out for a school activity. If it was a sports team, then you could actually say that it was going to, where's my sports team? There it is, school sports team. And then you would overwrite, and then you would put the details in here, and make sure you put your initial. So just to be clear here, it's very important that you make sure you have the right date and the right periods so that you're not going to be changing any other data for this group, and it would be for this group only. And then you click Submit. The other way you could do it is you could actually go in through, let's say it's a class of students. You can go in through Teacher Schedules. You can grab let's say it's the accounting class here. You can go and grab those 10 kids, and you can use it as an entire enrollment. Take these kids, and you can go to change. If it doesn't land you on this page, remember PowerSchool always lands you on the page you were before. So you'll see here's my 10 kids, and in the drop-down menu under attendance, you can go to change their attendance and do the same steps that I just did. Or if it's a small group, maybe it's your SRC, then you could just go find the kids one at a time alphabetically and change them to whatever code is appropriate for why they would be out. This was a big one that we found some inconsistencies were for when you have a supply teacher in the building. It is really important that when you have a supply teacher that you actually go find, so let's say we have Catalina's class. The piece of paper arrives down to your office and it says attendance is all present. It's really important that you still come into the class, open the chair, and even though you're not submitting anything, changing anything here, it's important that you still submit. Because when we go back and we look at the teacher submission status page, you'll notice that this class has been taken. We discovered that there were some AAs that were actually just not doing this step at all, because they felt they didn't have to because the default is present, which is good, but it doesn't tell us that the attendance was actually submitted. This class would still be listed as red if the attendance is not submitted, even though all the students are present. The other side of that is when students were absent, if there was only one student that was absent, they were coming in here looking for that one child and just changing the attendance for that one kid. So I haven't got any enrollment for that child in this example. I'll use a different kid. So they would come in for Gavin, and then they would only change Gavin's, which is good for Gavin, but it's not good for all the other students. We have to make sure that we actually go in and click on Teacher Schedules, find the teacher. It's now second period. We're going to change the attendance for this one period right here, submit it, even though everybody's there. And if we take a look at the teacher submission status page now, we will notice that there are 2 classes submitted. Okay. Yep, thanks, Lindsay. Any questions? Good point. Any questions on that one so far? Okay, so as you can see, we have red for teachers that have not submitted anything, and we've got yellow for teachers that have submitted things. If your school has a homeroom as part of the list right down here, so if we take a look at this one right here, we can see homeroom is on here, which is counting right now for the teacher submission status. This teacher, Elena, when she has finished doing all her attendance for the day, then we're going to run into troubles that she'll never show up as green. So we have to, that means our homeroom has not been configured correctly. So I'd like to show you how we make sure we change that so it doesn't happen. So we'll go to Elena, and we'll take a look at the homeroom section number right here. In the edit section page, there's a box here that says exclude from attendance. If we click this off and submit, and now go back to the teacher submission status page and take a look at Elena's list, you'll see that homeroom is not on the list anymore. Now, she will still be able to take attendance in Power Teacher for her own internal record keeping, but it will not be showing up on this list, and therefore we'll have cleaner data in terms of which teachers have or have not submitted their attendance. So that this is a really good thing to make sure that your homerooms are configured correctly. It is possible to submit a help desk request to have that changed all at once through your SIS specialist, if you rather than go into every single class. Lindsay, anything we should add in there for that?
Yeah, I think it is kind of a specialist call. Some schools may even want to do, like, I'm not sure what the principals want. They may want to have homeroom selected, and it is an actual department change. So instead of getting 300 phone calls from each school, it would be nice if you could try to get, from now on, to update those yourself. But if you've got any question at all, then contact your specialist.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just happened to see Kimberly's message here. She says, is it recommended that we do not track homeroom in attendance? I'm going to give the full answer to that, Kim, because this is a very individual school answer. But attendance for homeroom does not report anywhere on the report card. So if a school decides to take attendance in homeroom, it doesn't actually publish on the report card at all. If your school wants homeroom attendance being taken and the office also wants to track that teachers are taking attendance, then you would make sure that it is included on this submission status page right here. But if your school wants to take attendance in homeroom, but they really don't care whether it's taken on a regular basis or not, then you can do exactly what I just did here, which was exclude it. So it will no longer show up on the submission status page. So there's no provincial recommendation on whether you do or do not take attendance for homeroom. The question is, how do you wish to configure it so you can find the data that you need to, so you can either get after that teacher who's not doing it, or make sure that your submission status page turns green when everybody's finished by the end of the day. Does that answer your question? Okay, so
you did that nicely. I think that sounded
that
good.
covers it? Okay.
Yeah.
If I can just draw everyone's attention to Elena again, I want you to notice that there are 2 classes occurring at the same time. So you can see there's Hospitality and Tourism. This is an online course because it has the O1. at the end, and then we've got human services. So there's a kid sitting in this classroom. So if you get a sheet of paper from the supply teacher, it's possible to take the attendance for both of these classes at once. So if let me show you this. So if we go to Elena and we go to you can see, look, 2 period 4s. If I click on one, and there's only one student in the other class, if I click on the chair here, I can actually click on show multiple sections, and it will actually list that one kid that's also in that class at the same time. So by clicking on show multiple, I can actually put in their attendance for both of them. Do you remember the group list that I put in? I said they were out for a sports team. There's all the students that showed up for sports team in that class. So if I submit now, all these kids will be marked as present for this class, and it will not overwrite the fact that they are on a sports team because the office put it in. Just so you know, the reason I can edit it is because I'm in here as an AA. I'm not in here as the teacher. The teacher, this would be hard-coded for the teacher. They wouldn't be able to change it. Oh. Any questions so far, folks? Okay, that's great. Okay, so just to review, we've talked about individual student records. Go grab the kid and change them one at a time. If you have school teams or clubs, you can make stored selections, or you can do it one student at a time. Supply teachers, make sure you go in through teacher schedules. Running the teacher submission status report will tell you which teachers have done it and not. If you wish to have a class not show up on that list, like your homeroom, make sure that you remove the exclude from attendance so that it won't show up on the teacher submission status. So those are our kind of regular processes that we did before. I'd like to now look at the ones that we're recommending as changes. So at the high school level, and this would be for straight high schools, we're looking at that. We're asking you to blast attendance not required to every student in the school. So let's say it's Monday, school is on, but then you get a phone call that the kids are going to be going home at lunch on the buses, and their attendance is not required in the afternoon. So what we do in your high school is you grab all your students, every single one of them. You go to your group functions down here in the corner. We are going to change their attendance. Obviously, if it's today you're doing it, it's the default date that shows up is today's date. So it should be the correct one. And we're looking at only doing the afternoon classes because the kids were present in the morning. And we're asking you to scan for all codes. And we're asking you to set it to attendance not required. And inclement weather, maybe half day, and your initials. And this way we accurately capture that the students will have their attendance data here in the morning. See, we can't turn the calendar off, because if we turn the calendar off on a half day, then we lose the attendance data for the morning. And we can't leave it as present in the afternoon because they weren't there. So that's going to change our data, our statistics on our percent values for when students are in school and not in school. So this is why we need to change it to attendance not required. This is a new procedure that we're asking everyone to do. I'm not going to click submit on this, everyone, just because it's going to blast the entire school in this environment. So, but you would have to make sure that you submit to commit. Partial day programming. So what we're looking at here is we're looking for students in your high school that have met with guidance or ISD teams or the administration, and they're looking at modifying a student's schedule due to maybe a behavior plan. And so what we're looking at is we're asking you to put in attendance not required for those periods that they're not that they don't have to be there. So we'll go back to Gavin again. You can see I've already kind of played with Gavin a little bit. What we're asking you to do is You can do this either on a daily basis or you can do it for the week, but we recommend you don't do it for any more than 1 week, because if his schedule then changes back to normal schedule, then you'll have to bring up your SIS specialist and ask them to wipe the data, and we'd rather have you manage it. So if the student has a new behavior plan and they're not to be in school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then you'll put in XX, fill it in for the whole day, put a comment in. That's the code for behavior plan, and then your initials, and remember to copy it, and then go in for each one and put in submit. So what we've done here is we've accurately captured when Gavin is required to be in school versus when we're saying he doesn't have to be in school. So, and this would not be a suspension. This would actually be part of a behavior plan. So that's why we don't say they're suspended, because it's not disciplinary action. This is for behavior action as part of a plan. If it was alternate days, so if I click submit, I'll go down. There's the week. This is what the week looks like now. So there's more details that are going to come to you about this, because they're still a long way out. One of them is the turnaround days. We're asking you to make sure that in your calendar that you turn them off. If you're a straight 9 to 12 school, make sure you turn them off. If you are a blended school, that means that you are 9 to 12 plus other grades, then what we're asking you to do is you can't turn the calendar off, because if you're in a K to 12 school, attendance is required by the K to 8 kids, so you can't turn the calendar off. So what you do is, and this is in the documents that are attached that came with this invite, you would put in grade level in 9, 10, 11, 12. And this instruction will grab the kids that are in those grade levels only. And once you've done those, just one moment, please. Sorry, folks. And this will grab only those kids in that grade, and then you're going to come down to the change attendance, put in the 2 days that are for turnaround days. It's usually this date, and then, oh, I changed the wrong one. Sorry, folks. And select all the periods. And we are scanning for all codes, and we're setting it to attendance not required. Oh, sorry, scanning for all codes, setting it to attendance not required, and then turnaround days. And again, this is for only if your high school has blended grades in it. If you are straight 9 to 12, all you have to do is just turn the calendar off. The same thing here would also be for grad week.
Alistair?
Yes.
Can I interrupt just for 1 second?
Please.
Kim's got a question. If we could just go back to partial programming.
Yes.
Before we move ahead.
Absolutely.
She says if we have students who are only scheduled for the morning, they will not have attendance for the PM to adjust, correct?
That is correct.
We normally do these things on the change period attendance screen. Can we still do that?
Yes. The bottom line is we want to know when kids are required to come in and when they're not required to come in. So Kim's got a good point. Some students will have a partial program and they'll only be registered for courses in the morning. So in that case, they are present for the courses they need to be in, and they're not even in the building, and there is no attendance we even have to worry about because they don't have a class to take it for. If you're doing it for, on a individual basis for that student, that would be acceptable as well too. Did I get, am I answering the correct? Yes.
Okay.
Kim, that made sense to you? Lindsay, did I interpret that correctly?
Yep. She replied back, "That is great. Thanks."
Woohoo! Okay. Grad week is going to be the same. We want to make sure that you're putting attendance not required for all students, even for your 9 to 12s only. We can't go in and turn the calendars off because that graduation week is actually considered contact days for high school. And if we start turning those off, then we're actually in violation of the collective agreement because we've now shortened a kid's school year. So we got to make sure we put in attendance not required for grad week. More information is going to come for that as well too. Another one too as well for when you have school activities. For example, you may have a presentation on Tuesday afternoon for periods 5 and 6 where the students are going to go down and watch a presentation by Mad Canada. And therefore, they're not in their classroom, but they are at a school-sanctioned event. So they would be putting in school activity. And now that will depend on your school, and there's going to be more details, reminders coming through your principals about this. The principal may come to you and say, we want you to blast it to everybody, or they may say teachers are responsible for putting it in for it. So that will really depend on what your school process will be. Bottom line is, again though, if the kids are in the building but they're for a school-sponsored activity, we don't want to capture it as being present in chemistry class because they weren't actually at chemistry. They were in the auditorium or the theater or what have you for a presentation. Okay, I only have one left. The last one is for when school is canceled and we have attendance data that's been entered for the future. So this would be the case of a parent calling on Monday and saying that my child's going to be out on Thursday for a medical appointment, and then on Thursday school gets canceled because of unexpected closure. Unexpected closure would be considered weather. Obviously, that's our most common one, but it could be facilities, like the heater stops working in the building. Could be a work stoppage. There could be a strike action going on and kids aren't going to school. So what we want to do is we want to remove the future dates that were put in there. One of the big ones is suspension. So if a student has been suspended for 5 days and then there's a snowstorm on Thursday, we need to make sure that that suspension code is not in there, because the kid, we can't very well say a kid has been suspended from school on Thursday if the building wasn't even open. So what we're asking everyone to do is we want them to select all the kids. We want you to go to system reports, MB reports, and period attendance by class report. And you want to run it for all your teachers. You want to see it says leave blank for all. You're going to run it for all your periods. And you're probably going to be doing this the day you get back. So you would go back one day and you would run the attendance for those kids. And so what you're hoping to catch are the students that have attendance data that was entered in the future. There wouldn't be any attendance data for that present day because school wasn't open, so teachers wouldn't have submitted anything. So what we need, we're going to run that report. I'm not going to run it here because you won't see it. You'll get the period attendance report. The students will be listed here. You'll go and find each of those students individually, change them to present, and then you'll go back to your school calendar, and then you will snowstorm in July. We'll go in here and we will put in our values. You don't have to touch the tracks, you can leave them. And we will put in weather event. And if you need to put some details in here, you can put some details. So we've discovered that if there's attendance value in the system, and the calendar gets turned off, the day can still show up on the report card and making it look like the student missed a day when school wasn't even in session. So we need to clear the values out to be present, and then we turn the calendar off.
Alistair, we have a question. Do we move their suspension ahead by one day?
The answer is no. The student, we can't very well ding a student because of their good fortune that the day was closed for everybody. Or we can go around and turn everybody and give them a suspension on the storm day, but no, I'm just kidding, everyone. Global warming, Chrissy, I love it, yes. I'm now looking at the comments on the side. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our presentation for today. Please, if you have any questions, I cannot stress this enough. There are 2 people I'd like you to reach out if you need clarification. 3 people. One of them would be your administrator. That's your first line of defense. Number 2 would be your SIS specialist in your district, submitting a help desk request. If you're in any doubt of what you should do, reach out to someone. Also to our pedagogy specialists have also had training on this as well too. And the last one would be your data and accountability person. These people can answer questions for you to make sure that you have good, clean attendance data. The nice part is not much has changed from your day-to-day world. We really are just looking at those small instances where things occur, like a weather event. I know we can have many of them, but you won't have to do what I just showed you very often within a year. And you don't have to do it, immediately that morning when you get back. If you want to get some direction and have it fixed even a day after that, that's totally acceptable if you're even a little bit worried that you might get it wrong. And we are here to help. We're here to support and help you have good, clean data. Are there any questions? Two people are typing. Lindsay, did you want to add anything?
No, I see that one of the questions has already popped up.
Yep.
And just to go over the quickly what to do for changes in a weather day.
Yes. Okay, so
and the system reports, NB reports period attendance by class.
That's exactly.
I think she's got it right.
She's got it right. Good job, Susan. Yeah. So just to walk you through it again, everyone, it means what we're doing is we're trying to find any attendance data that was entered for like a future event, and it just so happened on the day that the parent called in, school got closed. So we need to go back and change whatever was entered in the past for that future day and set it back to present before we turn the calendar off to a weather event. Or like if you see on my screen again, everyone, there's like work stoppage, right? There's also infrastructure, epidemic. These are other reasons why buildings get closed, and we can't very well count those against students if the building isn't even expected to be opened. Susan, I hope that helps. It's also in the reports that, yep, you're welcome. I wanted to make a little note to everybody that the process that I just showed you right now about printing the period attendance by class report is in the version that is in the is not in the version that's in the link meeting invite here, but I did update it and it is now on the PowerSchool playbook. And for those of you that don't know the PowerSchool playbook, you go to the one site and you go right here, PowerSchool playbook. And you can filter it. You can go for AAs, you can go for 9 to 12, and then you can click on attendance, and it will give you videos, and it will give you other attendance reports that you can run, many pages specifically, many things providing. There's the attendance data, technical standards. It's in this document here. There's one for teachers. I got one for supply teachers. So there's lots of things that we've put together for you to help you get the data in there correctly. Thank you very much, everyone. I wish you an excellent, fantastic school year. All the best. Good luck. Lindsay, thank you very much for being the co-pilot.
No problem. Thank you. Great session. And if you're talking to any of your coworkers, we will have it updated and put someplace that we will tell you where it is. Are you putting it here, Alistair?
No, I can't put the video
recording.
here.
Okay.
I have to find another way of export. I've reached out for some help. I think I'm going to be making a YouTube video. I'm going to become a YouTube rock star. Never done this before. And I'm going to see if I can get them posted up there. And I might put a couple of versions up there so people can, because different questions pop up. So I think what I'll do is I'll stop my recording now.